Today, we're diving deep into the world of traditional Chinese medicine to really get a handle on what it means when we talk about blood. And, this isn't just about the red stuff flowing through your veins. It's a much bigger, more vital, energetic concept that really governs a huge part of our well-being.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with what TCM actually means by blood. Then we'll get into what happens when you don't have enough of it. That's deficiency. After that, we'll look at what happens when it gets stuck, which is called stasis. We'll also unpack the difference between that and another kind of stagnation. And finally, we'll tackle what's going on with different patterns of bleeding.
Okay, so let's jump right in. To even begin to understand the conditions we're about to talk about, we have to kind of recalibrate our whole perspective on what blood is within this system of medicine. It's a fundamental shift in thinking.
Right. So in TCM, blood is way more than just a fluid. It's seen as the physical manifestation of yin energy. Think of yin as everything that's cool, calm, and receptive. So blood is what gives us moisture, nourishment, and softness all throughout our bodies. When your blood is healthy and flowing well, your body and your mind feel relaxed and supple. It's literally the essence of calm and repose, the total absence of tension.
So what happens when we don't have enough of this essential substance? Well, that brings us to our first imbalance, blood deficiency. And again, we're not just talking about a low red blood cell count here, it's a much broader, more holistic pattern of not enough.
And this leads us to a really simple but kind of profound idea. If having plenty of blood means you're soft and relaxed, then not having enough blood creates the exact opposite. Tension. It just makes sense, right? When the body isn't being properly moistened and nourished from the inside out, it starts to become tight, brittle, and tense. And that's not just physical, it's emotional too.
The way you fix this is actually really intuitive. To treat blood deficiency, the goal is to tonify the blood, basically to build it back up. The best way to picture this is to think about a hard, dried-out sponge. What do? You soak it in water. And as it absorbs that moisture, it gets soft and pliable again. It's the exact same principle in the body. By replenishing the blood, we're restoring that moisture to release that inappropriate tension.
And the signs that you're lacking this nourishment? Well, they show up all over the place. Your complexion might get dull or kind of sallow and pale. Your mind, or what TCM calls the Shen, which is our consciousness, is said to be housed in the blood. So when blood is deficient, the mind has nowhere to rest. That's where you get things like poor memory, anxiety, and especially insomnia. Physically, we see the obvious signs of dryness, like in your skin and hair. And because your muscles and sinews aren't getting moistened, you can get numbness, tingling, tightness, or even cramps.
Now, what's really interesting is that this deficiency can show up in a couple of different ways, depending on which organ system is hit the hardest. You've got liver blood deficiency. This is the most common type, and it usually shows up with those physical signs we talked about, muscle cramps, maybe blurred vision, or for women, scanty periods. If you let that go on, it can actually stir up something called internal wind, which can cause things like vertigo or even tremors. On the other hand, you have heart blood deficiency. This one primarily hits the mind, or the Shen. This is where you see the really pronounced insomnia, the anxiety, the poor memory, and that ongoing emotional distress.
And, it can get even more complicated. If a blood deficiency goes on for a really long time, it can actually burn through the body's deeper reserves and evolve into what's called yin deficiency. So now, you still have all the signs of dryness, the brittle nails, the dry skin, but you've added signs of heat into the mix. The best way to think of it is like a car engine that's run out of coolant. Not only are the parts dry and grinding against each other, but now the whole system starts to overheat.
Okay, so we've talked about not enough blood. Now let's switch gears and talk about a problem of circulation, blood stasis. You can think of this as a painful logjam, a traffic jam happening inside your vessels. Here, the problem isn't a lack of blood, it's that the blood you do have is completely stuck.
So blood stasis is basically congealed old blood that is clumped up somewhere in the body and just can't get metabolized or moved along. What causes it? It could be from a physical trauma, like an injury. It could be from chronic qi stagnation. That's the body's vital energy getting stuck first. Or it could even be from something like cold, which, naturally slows everything down and can make things congeal. But the important thing is that this clump of stuck blood doesn't just sit there. It becomes a problem in its own right. blocking the flow of fresh blood and causing other issues down the line.
Now, this is absolutely key. If you remember one single thing about blood stasis, let it be this. The pain has a very specific character. It is not a dull, achy pain. It's sharp, it's severe, and it feels like it's stabbing. It's also fixed, it stays in one specific spot, and it characteristically gets worse at night, which is considered the yin time of day. And beyond that specific pain, there are a lot of other really clear physical signs. Since the blood is literally congealed, it can form masses or lumps that you can actually feel, and they're typically hard and don't move around. The color that goes with stasis is always purple or a dark blue. You'll see this in bruises that pop up for no reason, or in purplish lips, or dark circles under the eyes. You can even see it on the tongue, as purple spots or the sides of the tongue turning purple. The skin can also get really rough and dry, simply because fresh, nourishing blood can't get to it anymore.
So this brings us to a really important distinction we have to make. In TCM, both qi, the body's vital energy, and blood can get stuck, but they create very different feelings and signs. Being able to tell them apart is absolutely critical for figuring out what's really going on.
Let's just compare them side by side. When qi gets stuck, the pain is more of a distending, bloating feeling. Think of trapped gas. It's an ache that can move around. Blood stasis, as we just covered, is that fixed, localized, stabbing pain. It's much more intense. This difference holds true for masses too. A mass from qi stagnation might feel like it comes and goes, whereas a mass from blood stasis is firm. It's there all the time and it's immobile. And even the deeper diagnostic clues are different, from the color of the tongue to the very feel of the pulse at the wrist.
All right, last but not least, let's look at our third major pattern. What happens when blood doesn't stay inside the vessels where it's supposed to be? This isn't an issue of quality, like deficiency, or flow, like stasis. This is a problem of containment, of escaping. To really make sense of the two main reasons for bleeding in TCM, we're going to use a simple but really powerful analogy. I want you to picture your body as a huge horse ranch, okay? The blood vessels are the fences, keeping everything contained. And the blood itself? Well, that's the herd of horses living safely inside those fences.
So, using this ranch analogy, two main scenarios emerge for why the horses would escape. First, you have reckless horses, or blood heat. Picture a blazing hot day that makes the horses agitated and wild. They get so worked up that they just start jumping over the fences. This is an excess or heat pattern, and it results in sudden, pretty intense bleeding, along with other signs of heat like feeling hot, thirsty, or irritable. Then you have the second scenario, broken fences, or the spleen failing to control the blood. In this case, the horses are perfectly calm. The problem is that the spleen's energy, who we can think of as the ranch hand, is just too weak to maintain the fences. The fences fall into disrepair, and the calm horses just wander out through the gaps. This is a deficiency pattern, and it results in slow, chronic, persistent bleeding, often alongside signs of weakness like fatigue and poor appetite.
So we've seen how blood can be deficient, which creates tension. We've seen how it can be stagnant, creating these painful, sharp blockages. And we've seen how it can be uncontained, leading to different kinds of bleeding. It all brings us back to that very first principle we talked about, that healthy blood is really the essence of softness, moisture, and relaxation. And so it leaves us with a question to reflect on. In your own body, in your own life, does your blood feel soft and flowing, or is it showing signs of tension?